Hello and welcome to Time Management as a Result and Not the Method. So we hear time management everywhere, right? We hear this topic all the time. It's usually at the top of a list of priorities, especially in a new year. And we want to get on top of everything we have to do. And we want to be able to create more time, basically, right? That's the thing. That's the goal. That's what we wish we could do. And when I see people struggling with time management or saying they have a time management problem, I realize that my opinion might be a little bit different from what you may have heard. I don't believe necessarily in tackling the problem of time management. I believe that time management is a result of the methods that you tackle. So when I'm asked to talk about time management, I say, yeah, sure, I will. But you know that you're, kind of on a quest. When you're on a quest for time management and better time management, that actually comes last, right? Like that's actually the last thing that we worry about. That's the result. So I'm going to explain what I mean, and we're just going to get rolling. So I'm really excited for this. Okay, so this is your class if you struggle to find the time to work on your business. And if you feel like you could get a crown for procrastination, if you're always looking for time management tips, maybe you're on Pinterest, you're searching and you're always looking for that one golden nugget, right? You try these things and they don't stick. Maybe you don't have the same time each day to work. Maybe you're a 9-to-5er or you're a mom and kind of your schedule's all over the place. And so you don't always sit down to work on your business at the same time every day. That can throw you off, right? If you don't have the right habits. Maybe you feel sucked into what you're supposed to be doing first. If you have a client roster, maybe you're thinking, oh, okay, let me take care of them first, but then nothing really gets done in your personal business and you can't move your personal business forward. Okay, so if that is you, what we're going to cover today is your mindset around time management, because mostly time management is a mindset and the action only comes after the mindset is, kind of clearer. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to create your own process for time management so it works for you and it's specific for you. And when it needs to shift because your life shifts or you have a transition, then that's okay. How to trust your process, how to use it to grow your business intentionally and effectively, right? And then what procrastination actually is, what it really means, what's behind it, how to push away instant gratification. How hard is that to do, right? How to make sure that we're not just following the fires, we're not just following the cool things that everyone else is doing, but we're staying on track for our own goals and not rewriting our to-do list over and over again. How many people do that? I do that so much, right? We want to stop doing that as much as we can. Okay, so everyone wants all the time management tips, right? Everyone thinks they're missing this like golden nugget. Have you ever like gone on Pinterest and scrolled and like wished that like, oh man, like this golden nugget that it would come out and like this one piece of the puzzle and finally my puzzle would get solved and I could just have better time management, right? And so before you know it, you've kind of wasted your time looking for this golden nugget because it's inside of you. It seems kind of silly to look for it outside, especially if you can really understand that time management comes after the other things get into place. Time management being the goal and the process really having nothing to do with time management, right? And likely the things that are going to happen in the process, those are in your control. And things like habit building, your mindset, how to work through the desire for leaning into instant gratification, what to do about procrastination, all of that stuff, right? So if you know all of that, that becomes your process, and then time management is the goal that happens. So just a little bit about me. Just want to introduce myself. If you've never met me before or worked with me, I am not really your typical business strategist. I am a business coach and strategist, and I work with service-based female entrepreneurs, and I help them build effective group coaching programs. So for me, all the time management tips in the world never really helped me. And I realized it's because, number one, I was giving up control of my own time and my life. And, the thoughts that I had about the time I did have, which obviously is never enough, right? It affects my feelings, which affects my actions or my inaction. And so I needed a better way. My clients needed a better way. And so that's why I developed the system. I'm really passionate about delivering this system to you today and giving you the tools that you need to succeed. And so this is just a little bit about me and my family. I have a daughter, I'm a mother, and yeah, that's a crazy ride, right? Especially when it comes to time. So let's talk about mindset. Let's get clear on how much control you actually have over your time. And I use the word control because I know you think that other people's actions are going to dictate the strength of your business sometimes, right? If you don't talk to your clients and answer their questions immediately, maybe that means something about you as a leader and a coach. And if you only make time for client issues and just marketing your business, then leaving nothing, right, to actually move your business forward, then that means something about you as a seller or a business owner. And you're right. It does mean something about you as a leader, and it does mean something about you as a business owner. But it's not the outcome I think anyone really desires. I think what it is you're stuck in a thought loop that's really hard to get out of. And your business isn't going to grow because those habits are kind of ingrained in you to do for others. But you're not, again, going to move out of that loop and you're out of control at that point. So what would happen if, for example, you let your clients know that you'd answer their messages during a certain time of day? You are buying back time by doing that. Right? Or if you ask them to use just one form of communication to contact you instead of maybe a couple of different ways, right? How can your online community, your audience, feel taken care of, but you don't have to sacrifice what you really want to work on in the process, right? How can you make sure that you're in control of your business and your outcomes are a direct measure of your habits, basically? So I know I've asked a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. I'm a coach, but this one is really important. Okay. How can taking care of your business first, actually help your community more than spending time with them online when you don't really want to, or you don't really feel like you have the time for it, and you're kind of like, trying to shove it in between like little nooks and crannies of your life? How can taking care of your business first actually help your community more? Right? I want you to think about that. And I want you to take a closer look at your goals and how you plan to achieve them as we move on. Okay, so I've got goals. You have goals, right? But the goals that you just have, that you've just set, they could be sucking the life from your productivity, maybe even your habit building, and therefore how you actually manage your time and how you stay consistent. And here's the reason, right? Goals are just about what you want to achieve. There's no room in a goal for how you achieve them. There's no room for that process. Process is about how you achieve your goals. It's about your design, your focus, your action steps. So a lot of you are like, okay, that's cool, right? I get it. I have to lean into the process. I set a goal and then I'm like, what now, right? And so I'm going to stop being a psychology nerd for a couple of seconds here, but here's a fun little exercise we can do to understand the difference really between goals and process. So I encourage you to kind of take some time to outline your goal for sure. Like really make sure, like if you want to lose a certain amount of pounds, or you want to make a certain amount of money, or you want a certain amount of people in your audience, or you want to sell a certain amount of like this thing, right? I encourage you to outline that goal. I really do. But I also encourage you to outline the process, because what are the things that you're going to do to get there? Because what those things are really what matters most, right? Not the goal necessarily. And the way we get there is by building our own set of positive habits. So I encourage you to kind of draw this out. And these are just a couple of examples. So I gave like sort of a life example and then a business example. So if you are looking to like, okay, by the end of the year, I want to be able to play the piano fluently. Like, and that's an indicator, right? Like you're being a little more specific. I want to play the piano. I want to learn how to play the piano, but I want to play it fluently. Like, and what does that mean necessarily? Do you want to be able to play a piece and not have any mistakes? Do you want to be able to play a 10-minute piece? Do you want to be able to play a piece and not look at the music at all? Like, what necessarily does that mean? And then what do you need to do, right? Well, a lot of that is building in some practice hours, how you break down the pieces that you want to play, how to apply feedback from a teacher, even getting support, what that looks like for you, right? So putting these things in place, and then of course, creating the habits around them so that you actually do them will be so much more important than just saying, okay, I gotta, like every day that you wake up saying, I gotta play the piano fluently. I gotta do that. Of course, you can think about that, but you also have to make sure that you're living your process, right? Same thing with earning 6 figures in your business, right? We can't just be like, well, I want to earn 6 figures, because then we're leading into the instant gratification, the FOMO, the things that people are saying, oh, this will get you 6 figures in 5 minutes, right? What we need to do is lean into our process. Well, what product are you going to sell? Where are you going to market your business? How are you going to create a team if you need a team to help you? What points do you need help, and what people can fit in to your structure so that they can help you get there faster? How do you learn leadership? That's a huge part of becoming a 6-figure business owner. A lot of people don't talk about that, but that's true. And so I encourage you to create your own graph of your goals and your process. What are all the things you're going to need to really focus on to make sure that you get there? And these become the things that you do, right? Monthly, weekly, daily. Okay. And like James Clear says, he wrote a book called Atomic Habits, a great, great book. You get what you repeat. That's why it's so important to make sure your process is really in line. So we all have habits, right? We all have habits. Some are bad, some are good. At the end of the day, being a business owner, being a leader that has time for what they want to accomplish, it's about what positive habits they're building and how it can sort of compound on each other, right? So like, for example, when I work out, my mental health is way stronger, right? And so when I am doing 3 things at once to make sure that I'm doing the correct deadlift, it's preparing my mind to multitask when I'm working, right? To be able to talk to the client and spend the time with her, and then fast forward into my own business and use that time more effectively because my mental health is stronger. So that's a habit that is actually helping me become a better business owner, a better leader. I'm letting it compound on itself. And so, and I don't want to geek out on you or whatever, but building those habits actually does change your brain. My example of working out is very, that's a very good example of that. If you're not seeing the results that you want from your business, the chances are that the habits in there that you're repeating, that's what's creating the undesirable outcome. It's not the goal that's messed up. It's not the fact that you don't have time. It's the habit. You have the time for the bad habit, right? So all we have to do is change it. So some habits look like actual things, right? I think when we say the word habit, we conjure up the word morning routine. And so, but the thing is that like your thoughts are habits also, right? Because if you get triggered by something and it leads you to a thought that is always going to happen when this specific trigger comes in, that's a habit we need to change, right? That's something we need to deal with. So that can be negatively impacting your incomes. So I thought I have a lot of times, and I remember in grad school and when I was sort of working for a corporation, I would think things like, I don't have the time for this. Or I don't have good time management skills. I wouldn't rate myself high on that, right? Those kind of thoughts, for example, are dangerous actually, because you have put yourself in what sort of James Clear and other experts call a thought loop, and it compounds on itself. So when I say I don't have time for this, I won't have time for anything because I believe I don't have time. Now that you get what you repeat, right? You get what you say to yourself over and over again. And then like I've just been talking about the thoughts. What about the feelings? The feelings of failing, overwhelm, fear. Those all come from the bad thought. I don't have time for this. A lot of people call that a thinking path. So let me just take you through an exercise quickly. I don't even really have a slide for it. But it looks like this. Okay. So the bad thought, I don't have time for this, that leads to feelings of overwhelm, right? You act out of your feelings. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, your actions are going to be out of that feeling of overwhelm. Probably not what you want. That's where procrastination comes in. That's where instant gratification comes in. Let me just get this 5-minute quick fix, right? That's where your financial budget gets all out of whack because you're like trying to do quick fixes and put band-aids on things, and now you're spending money on things that you hadn't accounted for. So it's not how we get to our goals. It's definitely not how we do that, right? We're really just, again, in that vicious cycle of a bad thought loop. So instead, let's pick a different thought. And I know for me, something that really helped, and I would like to offer it to you just as something you can start with, but just so you know, thoughts are really so much better when they come from you. But hopefully this will help you just to kind of like give you a jumping off point. I would change the thought to, my time is valuable. So even if I had 5 minutes, it's a valuable time. It's a valuable 5 minutes, right? If I had 10 minutes, it's valuable. It might not feel like enough time to do a specific thing in your business, but it's still valuable. And that makes a big difference, because when you think your time is valuable, what's the feeling that comes out of that? Something more positive, right? Not overwhelmed, but something like maybe excitement. Ooh, what can I do in 10 minutes, right? If you believe that 10 minutes is valuable, then you're going to believe you can get something done in that 10 minutes, right? Maybe happiness even, maybe you're joyful, especially you will be once you do the action, right? Whatever you get done in those 10 minutes. And then you might teach yourself something like, wow, I didn't think that would only take 10 minutes. And it did. I didn't think I could just go live for 5 minutes and talk about that thing, that tip, and give my audience a quick tip. I didn't think that I could do something creative for my business in 10 minutes. Like, I thought I would need a whole day for that, right? And so you start to teach yourself, wow, my time is valuable. Then you start to have the evidence, okay? So when your actions are out of the feeling, you have to remember that, because would you want to act out of overwhelm, or would you want to act out of excitement and joy? What would change in your marketing? What would change, working with clients if your action came from a more positive feeling? How can you sort of turn this idea of you get what you repeat on its head, basically, so that you can actually get to your goal and repeat your habits that are just way more positive, right? Okay. So let's talk productivity for a moment. I know that a lot of people are also looking for, okay, how can I be more productive, right? Productivity is like a buzzword. What's the real secret behind productivity? It's creating habits. It's some of the things we've already been talking about. And here's why. The more tasks you do out of habit, the less your brain has to work hard on it, right? The less your brain has to help you along with it. Therefore, your brain is free to focus on other things. And these sort of tasks, some of these tasks become habits. So first of all, you're getting them done. Second of all, your brain is spending less time on them, right? You feel productive. You almost feel like multitasking, but in the healthy way. I know multitasking got it was great, and then it got a really bad rap, and now it's like sort of coming back again. I think because of just the sheer truth of the fact that business owners are multitaskers, especially if you have other responsibilities in your life, like being a mother or a partner or a 9-to-5er even, or all of the above, right? And so I think we're just leaning into the truth of adult women multitask. I mean, that's just what it is, right? And you might even achieve that state of flow. Now, flow is really, really rare. It doesn't happen that often, but it can feel like it when you allow your brain to focus, because your habits of all of these tasks have been created, right? It's just happening. It's like passive income. It's just happening. And you don't even, you're doing it, you get it, you see the orders coming in, right? But you don't really feel like your brain, like you're working super hard for it. That's the goal, right? That's what we want. We want to be more productive and not feel drained at the end of the day. So more than anything else, we can really understand that when we build habits, we're becoming the person we always wanted to be. We're becoming the leader. We're becoming the badass we've always wanted to be, right? We're suddenly doing things we always wanted to do, but we never had time for. What's on your long-term list? What are the things that you want to do you never had time for? Do you want to change email marketing platforms? Do you want to create a podcast? Do you want to start another new marketing channel, a blog? Do you want to pick up Pinterest? Do you want to help people on an agency side of things? And right now you're doing coaching, or maybe the opposite, maybe vice versa, right? Do you want to create reels on Instagram and you just haven't done it yet? Do you want to change the way that you launch and you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again because it works and you just don't have the brain power to change it, right? And you don't want to feel weighed down by it. And really generally just feeling like you're on top of your shit for once, right? All because of habits. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 steps to habit building. So this is a 3-step process that I've created to understand how to build habits so that you can have this life, right? So the first one is understanding your triggers. Some people might call this a cue. If you're kind of a psych nerd like me, you might have heard of it that way. So this can look like a thought. It can look like maybe a specific client you have messages you, something happens, you see an email, you have a specific feeling in your body, something like that. Your triggers can be a person, it can be a thought, it can be something that happens, it could be a certain time of day, right? So I want you to really understand and really pay attention. The way that you can understand those triggers is not just by sitting there and watching watching out for things, but really just living your life and paying attention. And even like really like putting on your sleuth hat, like being a detective, right? I'm dating myself here, but I used to watch Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? So I'm going to encourage you to be Carmen Sandiego in this case. She was a detective. She was really, really good. She always like got the case. She always figured out what was going on. And it was because she watched for the little things, right? So really watch for those things. And then the second thing, especially once you start to see some kind of pattern or some kind of trigger, get curious. A lot of people will take something that they see and they will put themselves down. Oh my God, I can't believe that I get upset when this happens. Oh, what's wrong with me? Why am I so scared to do this? Why is this bothering me so much, right? I would want to encourage you, just like a good coach would, to get curious about your thoughts, okay? So instead of going for the craving, right? Instead of going for whatever it is that you do when you do get the trigger, right? Do you open up your messenger app? Do you get annoyed? Do you then snap at your dog or your kids or something like that, right? I want you to lean away from the craving as much as you can and write down your thoughts. Write down, it's so powerful to really be able to harness a thought that comes from the trigger and write it down. Be like, wow, that's what I was thinking. Could be scary, and that's okay. I'm here for you, okay? Really get curious about it. Really look at that thought and say, wow, is that true? Instead of, oh my God, I can't believe you think that. How awful, right? I can't believe this. Well, that's why we're not, doing very well in our business. Well, that's why we have these problems, or that's why we feel like we don't have enough time, right? Really get curious about where that thought comes from and why you're having that thought, right? And then the other thing is ask yourself if it's true. Most of the time, it is not true. Most of the time, you do not have the evidence for it. It's just your ego trying to rise up and keep you safe. But again, I'm not going to go psychology nerd on you. And then the third step is to pick a new thought. And the new thought has to support the positive action. Remember, like I said before, do you want to do your business out of overwhelm, or do you want to do things in your business out of joy and excitement and fun and thoughtfulness and really the person that you want to be, right? And so what action do you want to be able to have? Do you want to be able to go live that day and you just can't? Do you want to be able to write an email? Do you want to be able to create a new offer? Do you want to be able to reach out to someone and say, hey, this offer would be great for you. I'd love to work with you. What positive action do you want? And then you could backtrack into, okay, this is the thought I have to have, right? So if you want to reach out to that person and say, this offer is great for you. I'd love to work with you. If you want to be able to do that, then what's the thought you need to have? Well, the thought you need to have is, my offer's great, right? My offer's great, and it's going to be so helpful to people. I can't wait to help people with this. I can't wait to let people know. And if I don't let people know, no one has, ESP. If I don't let people know, they're not going to come. I got to talk to people about it. And I get to pick another thought, which I love. I get to pick who comes into my offers. Oh my God, what a badass CEO move that is. I get to pick who I want to join my offers. Obviously, you don't get to control their thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? But you do get to pick the invitation. You get to pick and say, I want this person. I want Allison in my group. She's great. Right? She's going to be a really high achiever. And this is like really the one problem she needs to solve to get to the next step, right? You get to pick. So think about some of those thoughts and change them from whatever it is that you're thinking now so that you can do the positive action. This is all habit building. And this is how you get to better time management, to using your time better, more effectively. Okay, we're going to talk about instant gratification for a second. And this is like a troubleshooting thing here, because instant gratification is real and it happens particularly in online business. And I don't have to tell you why, right? We're seeing everybody else do all of this stuff. We're watching everybody else's highlight reel. We're contributing to it by putting out our own highlight reel. And even if you are being vulnerable with your audience, I am really vulnerable with my audience. I always have been. And I still look at my stuff and I'm like, that's a highlight reel, right? Right? Because you're not vulnerable every single day. That's just too much, right? So, with instant gratification, we want it right now. We want that highlight reel, that person's highlight reel right now, right? We're made to experience FOMO. There is fear-based marketing out there, which is not necessarily the marketing that I try to teach, but that does not help. Right? All of that doesn't help, especially when we don't feel we have control over our time and our habits are actually like pointing us towards the road of instant gratification, which we talked about. Waiting is hard. Waiting is hard. We want to act on pleasure, right? Think about how many of your current habits are because of this alone, because of acting on pleasure, right? I can tell you with like a lot of my eating habits, it's because I'm acting on pleasure. A lot of my sleeping habits, I'm acting on pleasure, right? So it's way easier to give into instant gratification. You feel like you're part of the crowd when you go buy that $37 thing, or you go, drink that glass of wine, and there's like 20 people on Instagram right now at this moment drinking the same glass of wine, and they, you can kind of commiserate with them, right? And then, it's easy also to give into that temporary pain. And this is most likely why you might say things like, I know what I need to do, I'm just not doing it, right? So if you're saying that, if that's your thing, instant gratification is most likely something that you need to work on the most. So giving into instant gratification makes you susceptible to even worse habits, right? And it also takes longer to get to where you want to go with your goals. Your business doesn't really have room or time for that. It just doesn't. Let's change that, right? Let's just totally change that. So I want you to think about a few things when it comes to instant gratification around this habit so that we can break it down. Okay, so the first thing is to go back to our 3-step process, which I'll put up here. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, to habit building. Gotta love live video, right? So here's a 3-step process to habit building like we talked about before. Remember, getting curious about your cues, your cravings. So your cues being your triggers, your cravings being what you do after the trigger happens, and really start to show you where you might need more discipline. Now, again, discipline is not to tell you to punish yourself. Discipline is what you need to be a CEO. It's what you need to be a 6-figure business owner, 7, 8-figure business owner. It's what you need to run a team. All the things that you might want to do, it's what you need discipline. And it's not punishment. It's completely different. It's not hustle either. It's different. It's, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. And this is shifting focus and letting my body know, and my mind and my spirit and all that. No, this is what we're doing right now, right? This is what we're doing. I'm in control, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, really, self-discipline is what sets leaders aside from everyone else. Who out there has discipline? Not a lot of people, right? We talk about hustle a lot, and we talk about being free-flowing and doing whatever you want and how you feel. But the middle part is the discipline, right? We don't talk about that a lot. How do you kind of like balance the fact that hustle does have some good qualities to it, and so does free-flowing, I'll do whatever I want, right? The balance is discipline, self-discipline. The balance is loving your process so much that nothing's going to sway you from it. And, your process is different from other people's, which can make you feel like sometimes when it's not, doesn't feel like it's working, you have the evidence that it's working because maybe there's some bad thoughts, or you just need some more time. It's a strategy and it takes 90 days, probably 60 to 90 days, depending on what the strategy is. When that happens, we tend to lean into instant gratification. Oh, no, or FOMO. Like someone else is doing this better somewhere else. They're doing it faster, doing it stronger, easier, better, right? But really, we have to have that self-discipline of like, this will work, right? And that trust, this will work. So the third thing about instant gratification is preparing yourself to be uncomfortable. Because again, like we said, instant gratification can be comfortable, right? It can be fun. We can lean into that really nicely. But the opposite, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? It's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be growth, because growth only happens when you're uncomfortable. So how can you reframe discomfort? So not ignoring it necessarily, but understanding that like it's there for a good reason, not just a reason, but a good reason. And it's actually a good sign that you are growing. You really are growing. Okay, so now we're going to lean into procrastination a little bit, because I promised you that we talk about this. It's another topic to sort of troubleshoot when it comes to getting better time management, having that be the goal. So procrastinating, you probably heard this before, but it really comes from fear. Fear is what's behind procrastination. It's actually what's behind instant gratification as well. When you don't want to do something, it's because you have a fear around it, right? It's not because you just don't want to do it. There's actually a deeper kind of seated reason for that. And obviously that's a whole other topic, fear in general, for another day, another training. But basically you become more disciplined when you don't allow procrastination to sneak in a little bit. So this can look different for some people, right? But these are sort of some of my favorite ways to not allow procrastination to kind of slip in when I'm trying to build good habits. So the first one, be on time. And not just like get to your doctor's appointment on time, get to your kid's school on time, but be on time for yourself. If you said that you were going to sit down at 8:30 to work, do what you say, right? Do what you tell yourself, and just do it, right? Don't think about it, just do it. I said 8:30, it's 8:30, I'm going to sit down to work, right? I said I'd take a break at 10, I'm going to take the break at 10, right? I've been guilty of that. I'm like, oh, no, just another 5 minutes. And it's like 10:30, it's 11 o'clock, it's right. I didn't like take the break, right? That didn't happen. And so I procrastinated something that was actually really supposed to be good for me, but it didn't feel good in the moment, right? And then also willing to tackle sort of that hard stuff, right? When something's hard, when something's new, when something's different, you have to be willing to look at it, and that every roadblock, look at those roadblocks as, you know, what's standing in your way from whatever's on the other side. So again, changing that habit from like, this is hard, or that thought loop, this is hard, I've never done this before, this is overwhelming, right? I'm not good at this. Because we think that we're not good at something we've never done before. We just automatically will think that we're not good at it because we've never done it before, especially as adults, because we feel like we've done everything. We don't want to be at the beginning, right? We never want to feel that way. And so we're always going to feel like, oh, this is hard. But what if you could change your thought to, this is a challenge, then I can't wait to see what's on the other side. When I get through this, what else am I going to be able to accomplish? I'm going to be able to add that to my list of accomplishments. I want to add that to I want to check it off, right? If you're listening to this, you're watching this, you probably love lists and checking things off. This is on my list. It's going to annoy the crap out of me until I check it off, right? So you can change your focus to that. And then the other thing is, procrastination is usually used, and it involves making excuses to look to, you know, blame things, right? So when you catch yourself doing that, you catch yourself blaming, you know, something out of your control on your procrastination, I want you to ask yourself, like, well, what's the payoff there, right? What benefit does my business get, and me, and my future, and my time, and my money? What benefit does all of that get when I blame other things, right? When I'm making an excuse, when I can't find a different way? What's the payoff there, right? Because procrastination feels really, really good, but there's hardly any payoff. Okay, so I want to teach you a little bit about, okay, we've talked about the goal, we talked about the process. What do we do? How do you actually like do this on a day-to-day basis? So I like to break down my goals into quarters, then months, then days of the week. So quarters being the focus. So for example, let's take the earn 6 figures in a year, right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to build a good program, maybe, let's say. Okay, so the first quarter, maybe that will be the focus. I'm going to build a really good program and an audience that supports the program. That's going to be great for the program, right? And so maybe each month your action step will be, let's say the quarter is January, February, March. It's the first quarter of the year, right? And your focus is, I'm building a really great program that's got social proof, right? People are going to be really into this. So maybe the first focus of January, the action is getting the offer together, right? Getting that offer together, talking to people, maybe doing some market research. And then the second month, so that's February, that action step will be building an audience, right? So what offer what you know, launch pad or free offer could you make, or a low ticket offer could you make that will lead people into it? Maybe it's a masterclass, maybe it's something like that. And then March will be all about launching. So you'll launch the launch pad, the masterclass, the workshop, whatever you want to do. And if this is not your business model, that's okay. This is just an example, right? It's how you take, okay, I'm going to sell this offer. It's going to make me 6 figures this year. I'm going to have some laser focus on this offer. I'm going to meet so many people. And if they're not right for this offer, maybe they're right for something else I have. And that will just, be stacked on top of this other offer, right? And then so maybe March, that third month, is about launching it, right? Is about actually like onboarding your clients, getting people, to sign up, and then starting to make that money, right? So that's your quarters and your months. That's just an example. Now, your days of the week will always have a focus based on your category. So for a lot of people, it's different categories, right? But like I like to, focus on, I like to have my clients only meet with me on like maybe 1 to 2 days a week. So I'm only open for clients on Mondays and like Wednesday nights or something like that, right? So I know like Monday, I'm going to be focusing on my clients. On Tuesdays, I like to make sure that those are my front-facing days. So I'm doing podcast interviews or trainings like this one, or I'm meeting with people I want to collaborate with, or having coffee chats or whatever. It's my front-facing day. I know for myself, I can build those habits around my life to make sure that I have a great, strong day with that, right? And then another one might be like content. A lot of us we all have to make content, right? So maybe you have a day just for content. That's really just a focus. It's not that you don't do other things, but you're more focused on that category of your business. So that's sort of how I break down my quarters, my months, and then my days of the week, and really just my week in general. Okay, so I want to leave you with this thought. Just a bold statement. I like to sometimes do these bold statements. I don't really use the word affirmations, but just a bold statement here. I do not make time for things that don't help me reach my goals. Okay. I think, that is a really great way to sum up this training. A lot of what we talked about today is not necessarily looking at time. How do I get more time? How do I get more time? How do I get more time? Right. It's more like, okay, how do I just expand upon what the time I already have? The time I already have is valuable. So how do I make sure that I am not doing things that don't help me reach my goals, but that everything I'm doing is the process to get me to reach my goal? And before you know it, you're going to have your goal, and you're really just going to have been focused on the process. And once you hit the goal, you're going to be like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, right? You hear that a lot, right? When people hit $1 million, they're like, well, yeah, they knew, right? It's because they love their process. It's because they didn't get sucked in by procrastination and instant gratification and bad thoughts and all of that stuff, right? Okay, so I would love to keep hanging out with you. I have a podcast. It's called Solopreneur AF. I talk about all things, solopreneurial in the business world. And you can listen to that podcast on really anywhere you listen. You can also just go to my website, allison-nelson.com. And you can join our free community as well. It is just an insiders group for the podcast. So you can search Solopreneur AF on Facebook and find my free community there. I'd love to have you there. I'd love to hear how you are kind of working on your process, the thoughts that you need to change, all of that. So make sure that you join and you hang on, you listen to the podcast, and let me know how things are going, okay? So have a great year. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.